How does it feel to be a rejected child? How does it feel to live with the knowledge and awareness of your worthlessness and uselessness? How does it feel to know that you have no support and that all you have is yourself? Every day was like a struggle for survival. More than anything, I wanted to come home after school, wash my hands, change my clothes, and sit down at the dinner table with a hot meal waiting for me, and my mother asking, "How are you doing, little girl? How was your day at school?" But instead, I was getting the opposite, the exact opposite. My name is Emma. Who among you is a rejected child like me? Post any smiley faces in the comments, or if you like, you can share your story with me. Do you know what psychologists say about this? That our parents lived with toxic ancestors, so they became toxic themselves. Meet my family. While they're having a nice dinner without me noticing, I'll show you guys them. That's Dad there at the table. He's stubbornly reading the newspaper. He does it every day. He's holding a newspaper or a tablet and diligently pretends to read the news, though in fact, he's texting with his mistress's secretaries. Under the newspaper, he usually hides his phone. That's my mom. Oh, she's wiping Ralph's mouth again. My dumbass brother. He's 8 years old now, and she treats him like he's 8 months old. The only thing he's added over the years is that he's learned to eat more than his body can handle. This company is so different. Everyone always has something on their minds, but the only thing they're unrealistically similar in is me, or rather their attitude towards me. Whenever I came to this house for help, I was refused. All my questions were answered negatively. I was only needed for work or going to the store. I was told what to do and what not to do, but never asked what I wanted. I understood that my parents didn't need me. They only needed Ralph, so I treated life the same way, pretending I didn't need it. That's why I didn't have any friends. Every day I went to school, where I didn't talk to anyone, and from there I went home quickly, where I didn't talk to anyone either. One day on the way home, I was accosted by 2 men and a woman. They asked the time, but I didn't answer, so the woman caught up with me, covered me with her hand, and pulled me toward their car. At first, I reflexively screamed and tried to get away, but then I just put up with it. They took me somewhere outside the city, pulled me out of the car, put me in a chair, tied my hands, and said, "Dictate your parents' phone number. We'll ask for your ransom." Instead of crying and getting hysterical, I looked them in the eye and then started laughing. I could not stop laughing and laughing. "What's the matter? Did I say something wrong?" "No, dear, everything seems to be true, but why is she laughing?" "I don't understand it either." They were talking over each other, and I laughed even more at the expressions on their faces. Finally, when I got 2 stern reprimands, I came to my senses. Then I told them my parents wouldn't give them a cent if they knew I was the hostage. They didn't believe me. They thought it was my way of protecting money. Then I offered to check. "Do you want to wait? Or I can call them myself." So we waited. Several hours passed. The time was nearing midnight, and still no one called me. The kidnappers were perplexed. "Well, how can you not call your daughter? This is midnight. Don't you wonder where she is? What if something happened to her?" the woman asked. I looked at her and said, "And you must have a child." The man answered instead, "Of course we do. We have a daughter. She's young, and we work hard for her." "By stealing other children?" I asked, to which they replied, "Yes, it's just we need a lot of money and we don't have time," she said. I kicked the bag and asked them to call my mom from my number themselves. Mom picked up the phone sleepy and immediately started yelling that why the hell had I woken her up in the first place. I said that I was stolen, and she told me in response, "You're stolen? Well, they'll return you because you're of no use, and we don't have any money anyway." My mother hung up on me, and I felt bad for the robbers. We sat in silence, and then I began to cry quietly, sobbing. The woman couldn't stand it, started hugging me and calming me down, and then she asked her husband to get some tissues and a glass of water. "They don't need me. Why did they give birth to me in the first place? Why have a baby if you don't want it? Why do I need a life if it's so useless?" I screamed hysterically. The robbers had no time to wipe away the tears on my face. Then the man cut the rope so I could blow my nose. The woman hugged me hard, then put me on their couch and told her husband to make us something to eat. When he left for the kitchen, I calmed down a little. "Wow, clever of you to ask your husband to make dinner. Is there such a thing? My father never even poured himself a single cup of tea in his entire life, let alone for us," I said, cooling down a bit. The woman hugged me and said that it all depends on the woman and her status. And then she said that apparently my parents had had a very hard life that they were treating me this way. It's not that. They just don't like me, I said. After about 30 minutes, the man came in and set the table. He quickly had made some delicious pasta. I had a nice dinner, and then they put me down on the couch in their living room. The mugger wiped away my tears, then covered me with a blanket. Somehow, this was the best moment of my life, and even though it was all temporary, I felt as good as being home or something. I fell into a sound sleep. I don't know how much time passed. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I saw the man and woman sitting across from the TV, watching TV and laughing together, and most importantly, they were under the same blanket, cuddling and giggling. I wanted so badly to lie down next to them. I went over with my pillow, and the woman opened the plaid.
"Come on, dive in. Here, you want some popcorn?"
Her husband asked me, and we sat like that for a couple of hours, and then it was morning. My phone was still silent. Then my uncle called my mother from his and told her again that they were her daughter's kidnappers. But my mom said, "Did you see the time? You woke up my baby, you knucklehead," and hung up on me. My aunt got all red with anger. I could see it wasn't about the money anymore. It was something else. They were angry. They put me in their car, fed me breakfast on the way, and I showed them the way to my house. Since it was weekend, everyone was home. Dad was fixing the car outside, Rolf was running around with a ball, and Mom was rustling around in the kitchen. "Hi, Dad," I said to him, and he didn't even look up, said,
"Hi."
And that was it. Rolf kicked the ball and hit me right in the forehead and broke my nose. It bled. My aunt gave him a smack, and she put a handkerchief on me. My mother saw this. She ran out with a wooden spoon in her hand and started yelling what the hell they were doing to her son. "Son, what about your daughter?" "What about my daughter? It's her fault she got in his way. So the fact that she wasn't home for 24 hours didn't bother you? I told you to bring her back. I won't even go to the police because of someone like her. Ralph, let's go inside, honey. Mommy made pancakes for you." My aunt grabbed her hand, looked her in the eye, and said, "She's your baby too." My mom yanked her hand away and said, "That's right, she's mine, but I don't want her, and you, get out of here." My aunt took the spoon out of her hands and threw it to the side. It hit my father right on his head. Ralph got scared and started crying, and Mama tried to calm him down. Then she ran at the kidnappers, screaming at them to get lost. Then my aunt came up close to her, like a UFC fighter at a weigh-in, pressed her forehead to her frightened face, and said, "You have no idea what it means to be a real mom and love a child. I would give anything for the life of my seriously ill daughter. My husband and I look for money every day to save her, while people like you throw away your own child's life. You don't deserve her," she shouted, and took me by the hand and dragged me to their car. I got in the back and we drove away from there, straight to the hospital. That's where I was introduced to their daughter. She has terminal cancer. The girl was happy for me. While her parents went away, she asked me to look after them and told me that if I wanted, I could be their daughter, and that I would be happy with them. Kitty was right. It's been 3 years since she died. I am living with my new family. Despite the circumstances, we're still happy. These people became my parents, and I became their daughter, and I felt needed. That's a strange thing about life. You never know how it might turn out.
Hi everyone, my name is Ralph. I want to share with you the story of how I adopted my son, but it got out of my way. I tried my best to be a good father, but in the end I became his worst enemy. Look at my history and write your opinion in the comments, what you think about this. In general, it was like this. I was 20 years old when I met and fell in love with the girl of my dreams. Her name was Sarah. She was so amazing that my head immediately blew off. I was sure that she was my destiny, so I did not hesitate, and after a couple of months I made an offer. Everything was fine with her until it came to the kids. We couldn't have a baby, and it was a nightmare. Sarah was obsessed with pregnancy and did everything she could to make it work. Sometimes I felt like she was challenging herself and couldn't carry out the plan, which made her feel bad. In the end, when we were running around the hospitals, when the strength and money were already running out, she offered me to take a foster child. To be honest, I didn't like this idea right away, because I believed that we still have time. After all, it's only been a year. I was sure that I just need to try again, maybe stupidly change the situation, and that's it. But Sarah did not listen to me. She ran around all these orphanages and looked for a child for us. She didn't even really consult me, and we had a lot of fights about it. In the end, she chose a boy in one of the boarding schools. You know, his name is Sam, and he was already 14 years old. Yes, this was far from a baby. Moreover, he already had a well-established mindset. He was not stupid, far from stupid, but so sharpened by the fact that he lives only one day. Sam was wild, like everyone else from boarding school, I think. In short, our first meeting with him took place, in fact, already at our home. I didn't go to pick him up from the orphanage. I decided to go to work instead. Sarah was beaming with happiness, but she knew I didn't support the idea. I held out my hand to Sam, and he looked at it like I was showing him my fist, very aggressively, so I took my hand away and went to my bedroom. In the evening we were going to dinner, and I sat down in my usual seat, but Sarah asked me to move. You see, Sam liked my place. I was indignant. They say I have been sitting there for a year, but Sarah asked me to give up the child. Okay, I agreed. After a while, it turned out that he liked my mug, my plate, my razor, my towel, and robe. I became really angry. What else could he like next? Maybe I belong in this house. I was angry with myself, but I didn't say anything yet, so we lived like this for about a week. It seemed endless, and I wanted it to be over and Sam to go back to his room, but I knew it would be cruel of me to take him there by the hand. And Sarah, she devoted all her time to him, didn't even pay attention to me, didn't talk to me, didn't look at me, and didn't even listen. She was fully occupied only, as she said, with our son. But what can I do? I didn't feel that it was ours. He was a strange adult guy to me. What kind of son can he be to me? One day, Sarah ran off on business and left us alone. We sat down to breakfast. As soon as she left, I immediately took out my phone and began to stare at it and eat more. Sam turned up the TV and looked at it. A few minutes later, I heard him rummaging in the purse that Sarah had left behind. The guy took her wallet, pulled out the money, and put it all back. I'm just freaking out from such impudence. Why did you take someone else's money? Not even shy, I asked maliciously, and Sam says to me, it's not your money, I want to take it. I tried to explain to him that this is our money and that he is like our son and so we do not have in the house, but brazenly told me that Sarah is his new mother and that she loves him more than me and that very soon I will not be in this house. And then I burst out. I got angry. I started yelling at him, and then Sarah came in. She saw such a picture, Sam is still an actor, immediately fell to the floor and pretended to hit him. I told him it wasn't true, that he'd made it up, but Sarah wouldn't listen. Well, then Sam said I yelled at him for stealing money when he didn't take it. Sarah reached into her wallet and couldn't find any money, so I told her to check his pockets. Sam turned them out and showed them that they were empty. But how is this possible? I saw it myself. Then Sarah came up to me and felt my pockets, where she found the money. How did he manage to slip them to me and when? Do you understand what happened after that? That's right, Sarah kicked me out of the house. Sam got his way, he pushed me out, and now he had no boundaries. He took my rightful place. Sarah didn't even look at me as I packed my bags, and the nasty guy opened the door for me and waved goodbye with a grin. I was so angry. I went to see my colleague. It's good that he took me in and told him about the situation. Then he asked me to stay with him temporarily and come up with a plan to get back. A colleague said that there would probably be a time when Sam decided to steal from Sarah very big and that this would require proof. Of course, not all at once, but it's worth waiting and catching the moment. First of all, on the advice of a colleague, I wrote to Sarah that I love her, but since there is no place for me in the house, I am leaving for my homeland. She knows where I'm from. It was important that she knew I wasn't here and that Sam found out. As we all knew, as soon as I kind of left, the little bastard got really fucked up. While Sarah was at work, he didn't go to school, threw parties at our house, drank alcohol, and smoked drugs. I caught it all on camera. Sam stole a car from our neighbors and got drunk behind the wheel. He crashed the car and immediately called Sarah and said it was all my fault. That is, her husband. Yeah, in this state, he forgot I wasn't around. I could hear everything, sitting nearby from behind the bushes and filmed everything. 30 minutes later, Sarah arrived. She was dealing with the neighbors. At this time, Sam's friends managed to escape, and he took something to cut off. Sarah wrote out a check for car repairs and then went to the house to deal with it. I technically climbed to the second floor and sat next to the window to listen in on the conversation. Sarah told him that I was out of town, and then she cried bitterly, saying that it was hard for her to be with him. Instead of asking for forgiveness, Sam raised his hand to her and slapped her to the face. Sarah was in shock and asked him not to do it, but he hit her again. I couldn't stand it and climbed through the window. They were both in shock. and then I showed them the video. Sam didn't know what to say, and Sarah started to cry even more. Everything was clear. Yes, we got the baby back. My wife realized that we are not ready to raise such an adult child. So for now, we agreed to become parents of our baby, and then we'll see. And then we'll see. And then we'll see.